Hello and welcome to What We're Watching. It's Katherine.
And Liz.
And Ed.
And John.
Okay, so I have some stuff to talk about.
You never have stuff.
I know, I've been watching things. Who would have thought that I've been watching things? I'm going to try and limit myself. I'm going to try not to do, 6 things every episode. I'm going to try and...
John does not believe you.
I didn't say anything.
Well, I'm going to start off with Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Prime Video.
Oh, the new TV series.
Yes.
Mr. Smith Goes to Washington?
No, that's something else.
No, the
John.
super sexy movie, which was Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie.
Yes.
Ooh, that's a fancy way of saying Angelina Jolie.
Let's talk about it.
That's where all of the scandal started, supposedly.
Because they were married to other people. And then they started to have like super good chemistry.
She was not,
Oh, she was single at the time.
right, and had adopted a child. I mean, we're getting so sidetracked. Sorry, but this was like very much national news. It was Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt, who supposedly at that point were already potentially sort of heading towards separation, if not divorce.
I mean, how are you so in the know about this? All right.
I mean, everybody was at the time.
It was the hot topic.
Brangelina was like and people still, I just saw some post about, it was a throwback on Ellen's Instagram, and it was her interview with Angelina Jolie, and she was talking about adopting her first son. And someone wrote underneath it's like, this husband stealer, da-da-da-da. And you're like, I mean, she's not even with Brad anymore. They had multiple children together. Can we please move on?
Also, I hate the female-focused, negative, as if no one else was involved. Come on.
Not a husband stealer, a treasure stealer.
A treasure stealer? What? Oh, because of Tomb Raider? Oh, my gosh.
Thank you.
God, the leap. Oh, yeah.
At least I figured it out, Ed. I was like, what are we? How did we?
Okay, so this is now a TV series based on the movie.
Correct. Well, wait a minute.
Oh.
So this is what I found out. All right, so you're right. It was a 2005 movie, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It was Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie. They were a married couple who, surprise, find out that they are both assassins for competing companies, and they have been tasked with killing each other. Okay.
Can I just tell you something?
What?
The assassin genre is one of my favorites. Like John Wick, right? It really is.
Or just role play.
Bullet Train. I mean, I love
Sure.
it. Mm-hmm. But it makes you feel, or makes the assumption that every other person is an assassin.
There's so many assassins.
Especially if you're in New York. I mean, when that John Wick, the alert goes out, John Wick, a hit has been put on him. Literally every person was like, oh, I mean, every other person on a subway, on the street, in the park, you're like, okay, so are we all assassins?
There's more assassins than you would think,
right.
apparently.
So, I mean, the chances that, the background of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, they kind of met on a competing job, and yet they're both so super sexy, and there's no suspicion of who are you? What
Hold
do you do?
on.
And they're trying to keep very, very 9-to-5 normal suburban housewife lives.
I know that they're not connected, but I really do wish that Bullet Train was connected to the original Mr. and Mrs. Smith. He's still a spy. He's obviously divorced. It hasn't gone well. He's done some personal work.
Ed, are we sure it's not?
I don't.
That's amazing.
It
Ed.
should be. No, they have totally different names.
Well,
Still,
whatever,
he had
maybe.
to change his name.
And he was subbing in for that job. Don't you remember? It was
Still?
Ryan Reynolds, who's really the spy master. Whatever.
But, it kind of makes sense. After his divorce, I'm not going to blow it. If you haven't watched the movie, forget it. That is a movie that holds up.
It's a great movie.
I watched it recently, and I recommend it, but I don't want to blow the end of it. Okay, so
it's a great movie, 2005.
Good. We're done with this subject.
No, we're not.
God.
Hold on. Because here's what I discovered when I was double checking, because I knew I was going to talk about this. And I wanted to make sure that I knew, what year was it? And scuba-dabba-doo and all that. And also in this new series, it's a slightly different premise. Because I was like, am I wrong that they didn't work for the same agency? For sure they didn't. And also they didn't know that the other one was a spy in the movie.
right.
So in this TV show, the setup is a little bit different. But here's what I discovered that was super surprising. This was a TV series previously in 1996. Yeah,
With who?
With Scott Bakula and Maria Bello. No memory of this at all.
And it was called Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Yes, it had 1 season, 13 episodes, and it was 1996. I don't recall it at all.
No, neither do I.
But yeah, so even before the movie. So the movie was actually inspired by this TV show. But now this new TV show is supposedly more inspired by the TV show than the movie because the premise is slightly different. So I don't know what the exact setup was in the Scott Bakula version of 1996.
Cancellation was the...
Well, that was unfortunately.
One season, I mean, nothing got resolved.
Yeah.
Because limited series didn't even really exist then for the most part.
No. And I mean, limited series, you would only do that if everybody's like dead at the end or
like a mid-season pickup where you only got like a half season. We got 13 episodes. Whoa! And then we didn't get picked up.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, so that was a surprise for me and obviously for everyone else here as well. But this new one is created by Donald Glover, who most people would know. He's an amazing talent. He's an actor, a writer, does music under his pseudonym or, performance name. Childish Gambino, a rapper. He did the show Atlanta, which was sort of music
very well
themed.
received.
Yeah. Oh,
too.
it was incredible. People loved it. It's still on my list of, what do you call that? Like a cultural blind spot where you're that you need to watch something and you still haven't gotten to it. It's one of those.
Wire is for me. Like,
I know.
I tried starting The Wire, and I don't know, it was about the first 20 minutes. It was like, well, I'm not into this right now.
Yeah,
you got to be in the mood.
Yeah, you got to be in the mood for something dark.
Yeah.
It's created by him with Francesca Sloan, who is a producer and writer who had previously worked on Atlanta, and she also worked on Fargo. She did 2 episodes in not this current season, but the previous season.
That was a good season.
Yeah, the one with Chris Rock. Great season. Yeah. Anyway, a super talented lady, apparently. It's one of those things like you don't know somebody until they bubble up in a different frame, and then you look back and you're like, oh, I've seen a lot of your work. I just didn't know it was you. So anyway, that is Francesca Sloan. So the two of them created the show, and Donald Glover stars in it, which is great. So the premise is slightly different. So it's him, and he's co-starring as he's John Smith, and then there's a Jane Smith, which is another one of the bits of the Smith universe.
Okay.
So it's John and Jane. Apparently always it's John and Jane.
Okay.
So he's starring with Maya Erskine, or Erskine, I'm not sure how you say it. She was in a series called Pen 15, which was a comedy series, very odd and funny.
Yes, that's what the series is called.
Yes. We're not going to say what it looks like if you write out Pen 15. Because
it's a little childish, Gambino and humor.
Yeah, it spells a word.
Oh, yeah. I literally was like going like this: PEN 1-5. What would that be? You put together.
Yeah. So it's very fun because her and her comedian co-star, they play middle school versions of themselves. I think the whole thing is very funny.
Do they have braces?
Yeah, like retainers and braces, which is a great
adult
move.
Braces.
It's very funny. Okay, so they play the John and Jane Smith, and in this version, they have both gone through like an interview process and accepted jobs for this clandestine agency, and then are matched together and married, and then have to do jobs together.
Oh God, it's kind of like The Americans.
It's so much like The Americans, only a little bit more of like they're not making a comedy per se, but it's much more comical, where The Americans was like
rough, heavy.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, it was a fantastic show.
I'm assuming there's not a teenage daughter.
No.
The Americans.
Yeah. I mean,
you know how I feel about a teenage daughter.
It's tough.
They inevitably have to F it up. There was something recently where it was like the same type of thing, like everybody turn your cell phones, because if you use your cell phone, we're all going to get caught. Of course, the teenage daughter has a secret one.
Oh,
you're like,
no,
why?
come on.
So good. All right, so no children.
No children. They are.
I love children, but
they are playing their age and have just met and are, recently. I don't know if it's fake married or really married or whatever. That is one of the storylines that we have to play out in the series, because they're supposedly, not really married, but then they're together all the time. So how's that gonna
Did
work
you say
out?
what platform it's streaming on, or?
Oh, it's on Prime Video.
So are all episodes available now?
Yes, all episodes. It's 8 episodes. So it's funny because 8 episodes is not as much as the 1996 series, which got 13. But this has been really well received, so we're going to get more of it, I assume and hope. Knock on wood.
Okay.
Because I really, really enjoyed it. It was really good. There's an amazing single guest star episode with Ron Perlman. That episode was phenomenal, and he was amazing. I mean, I don't want to even explain what it was, but that episode was great. It was somewhere in the middle.
How did he look, Ron Perlman?
Very Ron Perlman-ish. He's on social media, particularly during the strike. He was putting stuff up. It's great to see him.
Got a fantastic voice.
He's great.
Okay, great.
And this episode was really good. They have to go and rescue him and then transport him to, a rendezvous point, and it's just a fiasco. And it's fantastic.
Did he have to wear any prosthetics on his face?
No, it was just regular Ron Perlman.
Because those of you who don't know, Ron Perlman was in the TV series Beauty and the Beast. He was Beast.
Like a big, makeup job.
And then movie-wise, he also had to do heavy prosthetics for...
Oh, what was that? It was he's like a demon, the red...
Hellboy,
there we go.
Which he did at least 2 of them.
Yeah.
So, he's had to endure some heavy makeup.
He has. So his episode, really amazing. Earlier in the season, I think like in the first or second episode, there's a John Turturro episode. Oh my God. He's great.
He's always great.
It's very funny and fun. Because that's what it is. They're not doing comedy, but things don't go perfectly, and then it ends up being kind of funny. And they're playing it completely straight, the 2 main actors, and that always works super well, I think. And then we also get a couple other guest stars. We get Alexander Skarsgård right in the beginning for a little
He's
bit.
doing a lot more TV and little cameos.
This is a little bit more than a cameo, but not a full episode guest star. He's just kind of in an opening sequence.
Okay.
And he's great in that. We also get Michaela Cole, who I don't know if people know her very well, but she did Chewing Gum, and she also did I Will Destroy You, I think it was called. She's phenomenal. She's a writer and an actress. You'd probably recognize her if you saw her.
Okay.
But she has a good little guest star thing in this. And last is Billy Campbell, so he shows up as well. So anyway, they did a great job with like support cast. The premise is kind of slightly different than the movie, and in a way better for making a TV series because they already are like paired as spy teams. The last thing I want to bring up is we've talked about how they are John and Jane Smith. Well, they're not the only John and Jane Smith, which is fantastic. You realize like, oh, this is something that is happening other places, and there's other Johns and other Jane Smith teams.
Oh, okay.
And one of them involves Parker Posey, who I freaking love. So to see her pop up, and her John is Wagner Mora, and he's great. I've seen him in a couple of things, and they're a great John and Jane team, and that's a great storyline. So they have at least 2 episodes.
Spin-off.
Yeah, they're very fun. So I would say extremely enjoyable, and get on it right now. Okay. So then the other thing I watched was One Day, which is...
I started that.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay, great. So
and then I felt kind of old, but go for it. Because, the first episodes are like basically college, or like they're graduating college.
Yes. So One Day is a limited series. It's on Netflix. It's 14 episodes. They're not full hours. Most of them are in the 45-minute range, I would say. It was kind of a quick watch. It's initially set in, I think, 1990s. They're graduating from college.
Right, that's what it feels like. Like a Cambridge.
Yeah. It's this young woman and man who are friends. They become friends right as they're graduating.
Right.
And then we follow them as their friendship kind of goes through its ups and downs, and their life as it goes through their ups and downs. The 2 main stars, I had not seen this woman before.
No,
she was
neither did I.
very good. I'm going to give a shot at her name, Ambika Maud. Or Mode, maybe. I don't know. Hopefully that's close. And then Leo Woodall, who I'm sure most of us who saw the most recent season of The White Lotus.
Yes.
He was friend of the gay group.
Evil gays.
Yeah, the evil gays who were, trying to...
They're out to kill me.
Yeah, out to maybe, possibly kill Jennifer Coolidge's character. Yeah. So he was fantastic in that, and kind of popped up on people's radar a little bit more. Like all of a sudden you're like, oh, who's this young man?
Right.
They are very young. and attractive.
Yes.
These
British. This is very British.
Yes,
too.
this is a British show. Yes, I should have mentioned that, but when you said Cambridge, that was a good indication that it takes place in England. So the two of them become friends, sort of an unlikely friendship that endures over time, and we check in with them on the same day in different years. So that's the one day thing.
That's the gimmick.
Yeah, that's the gimmick. I didn't know that it was based on a pretty well-known novel, which, okay, so there was a book in 2009, which was very well received. And so it's based on that. There was also a movie in 2011 with Anne Hathaway and Jim Sturgis, which I don't recall at all, but
no.
Yeah, okay. So, but anyway, I don't think it matters even if you read the book or...
No, you don't need to.
No. And also, I think this version of it, if you are a fan of the book or if you had seen the previous movie, this is a wonderful version of this story. So either as a newbie to the material or revisiting because you've seen it in these two other forms or know about it from these two other forms, one's a book and one's a movie. Anyway, it's really good. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. There was some fun, light moments, also some heart-wrenching kind of stuff going on. Very slice of life approach.
And that's on Netflix, right?
That is on Netflix.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so that's what I got for right now. Liz, do you want to go?
Ed, why don't you go? We'll break up the order.
Break up the order. Woo, all right.
I'm bringing some reality and some drama.
Ooh.
But it's fun sci-fi drama. And it relates to Scott Bakula just a little bit.
Oh.
Weirdly, they haven't figured out any way to like bring him back into Quantum Leap.
Oh, Quantum
on
Leap.
Peacock /
Oh,
NBC,
yes.
but I'm watching it on Peacock.
Okay.
So this is its second season, yeah?
Yeah, and just finished its full episode drop. It was doing a weekly, so I didn't talk about it for a little while, but I've been letting him, build up to 2, and then I watch him. And then it was off for 4 weeks, and you're like, I maybe shouldn't have watched those 2. So it feels like I haven't talked about it in a while because it's taken a long time to get the whole second season out. But it's all dropped. And interesting arc through the whole season because the first season they were bringing some original characters and original storylines back from the original series.
I do remember when you brought it in the first time, or you talked about it the first time, the first season, that it was related to the original show, and they were being...
They had like crossover characters and a little bit of a crossover storyline, but they were really trying to start new and start fresh and get their own thing and their own characters going. So this season, there's a little bit less of that backstory connection and more like they're trying to build into a new series and a new season and a third season. So I wasn't totally buying in the direction that they were selling at the beginning. I thought they were going to go with the one repeated character that kept showing up. It was like, okay, no, you've hit that character twice. You're not supposed to leap and meet the same person. So that's obviously what you're doing with the series this season.
Oh, that is a different format.
And it wasn't.
Oh.
It was a misdirect. But it was a really good misdirect. So, time travel-wise, it played a lot of fun games with that arc and that story. And then, of course, every week there was some drama that he had to figure out and something that was going to explode or somebody was going to die, and he saves them. So that's always a nice, little bow on the end of all these episodes.
Sure. It's the nice episodic formula when he gets to fix whatever it is, but then there's something bigger going on.
Exactly. And although, like I said, it's too bad that they haven't quite navigated into figuring out Scott Bakula on the show. I'm hopeful if there's a season 3, he'll make a guest star, at least a silhouette. Brightly white-lit, all unitard silhouette.
It would be awesome to have Scott Bakula. I mean, how could they not? He's around. He's fantastic. Get him on there.
They're abiding by the lore of the original series, which is he's gone. He went off and is solving his own things from the end of that. He met God at a bar and decided to not go back and stop Quantum Leap because it would unravel everything he had done if you watch the original series.
I'm going to do a little Marvel on you here. We can do a multiverse. There can be multiple Spider-Mans, multiple Batmans. There can be multiple Bakulas. So there's no reason for some bizarre reason on some thread of the universe spiking off this way or that way, they then cross over. I mean, Marvel has gotten so insane with the multiverse and the quantum. What's a quantum level? Am I getting this all right, John?
The quantum mania, the quantum
mania,
realm,
isn't
the
that
quantum
just the
realm.
small thing?
Quantum realm. There's a lot going on down there.
Yeah, all the scientists have an issue with that. I do see what you're saying, though, and, if they need some help with season 3, I have a way to bring Sam
Don't
back. I have a way
share
to,
it.
I have an easy way to bring Sam back that doesn't bring him back. And you've got, 60 episodes to reference from. He could literally jump in as the waiter in any episode you want. It's fine. But they already kind of did that with the original series with the Evil Leapers. Blah, blah, blah. I enjoy that
When
series.
did you rewatch it feels like you really remember the original series.
I just really remember the original series. I didn't rewatch it. And I am almost a little bit peeved every time I finish a fresh new episode. We just dropped a new episode. The season's got 3 more left. Keep counting. It finishes that and it offers me Quantum Leap, Season 1, Episode 1, original series from 88. And you're like, get out of here. Stop trying to make me watch that.
You know it so well, yeah.
You'd probably like it. Let me suggest this.
You're like, yes, I did.
Suggestions. You're like, stop trying to profile me, okay? I watch documentaries. I really do like a nature expedition, throw in hiking and a lot of ice because it's really nothing I'm ever going to do. And sometimes the suggestions underneath, you're like, okay, calm down. I don't, and yet I usually click it. I'm like, all right, But now my son, I realize, is totally into them, but he more is like, I want to do that. I want to climb the 14 peaks. I'm like, we're never watching this again together. Okay.
Yeah, yours is like vicarious because you're not going to do it. He's like taking it as suggestions
like
for
notes.
life. No.
Good God, no.
Speaking of reality and suggestions for life, I watched the Netflix limited docuseries called You Are What You Eat. The twin experiment. Yes.
Twin experiment, yeah.
That is the appropriate reaction.
Did it change your life? Are you afraid to eat
No,
anything?
it's the worst. It's like hopeless.
Yes,
Everything's
exactly.
being deforested. You want a hamburger, you should die. You're the worst person ever. Also, we make a meal plan for these people. That sounds terrible. It was like the worst reality you would have ever watched. It was like food you don't want to eat. They're not going out and doing anything. And half of it was a harrowing tale of what we're doing to our planet and the terrible things that the beef industry does to make farmland. And
did you have to cleanse your palate?
No, I just watched it and then
How
moved
did you
on.
not get that? Oh. You missed my pun?
Because I'm still going to eat hamburgers. That's why.
Yeah, my husband really wanted to watch it, and we haven't cracked into it yet. I'm a little scared because I'm just going to feel terrible about almost everything that I do. Even though I, of all of us, do the most hippie things.
Unfortunately for you,
you make a yogurt.
you would love this series because someone on the vegan side and that path. Now, let me just split this up. The documentary about what we're doing to our planet, I wouldn't have chose to watch 4 episodes of that. Twins on a food experiment to see if different diets affects their diet their health differently. Yes, but then it really heavily leaned into, the carnivorous diet. You're a jerk. You're ruining the planet. All right, whatever. So that aside, the twin thing was actually really interesting because one of the pairs of twins ended up with a vegan choice, and he was making chia seed pudding.
What? Chia seed pudding?
It's like 4 weeks.
Does he have your recipe?
4 weeks
I don't
into
know. I
being a
should
vegan,
post
you're
it.
going to start doing chia seed shit. Watch out, people.
I do like a chia seed, but then you really got to look in a mirror to make sure it's not chia seed stuck in
Yeah,
there.
they're super dangerous.
Because it's just like you have a hole here too. Perfect black little dot. Was the results of, twin versus twin dramatic? Living a different lifestyle for a couple, I'm assuming months?
No. Unfortunately, it wasn't as dramatic as every other food and health-related show is, because it's Netflix. It gives 4 episodes.
Oh, you
How
mean
long
like-
do you think they
yeah.
were trying to do a reality show if they only squeezed 4 parts of a documentary out about them? Personally, I could see that they could have made an entire series out of just that and that experiment following their exercise plan, but it was a lot more interviewee, and it was only 8 weeks, so their food changed from we're doing your entire diet for a couple weeks, you're doing your entire diet for a couple weeks with our, information on how to make it instead of pre-made that you're just reheating, so that we're still in control. And then the last part, you're on your own. You can pick and choose your own stuff. I mean, the weird thing was you're never going to get the health experiment duration.
Yeah,
in
in
that
8
short,
weeks.
exactly.
It feels like it needs to be a year.
But there was some quantification with, like, they brought in some other scientists to fill out the story a little bit, and there was a, your sexual appetite and your libido doctor, whatever. It was like a Johnson & Johnson type study. They've done hundreds of actual studies, and they understand, like, yeah, your body's reacting a specific way because it does a specific thing. That's what your body's doing. That's where the heat is. That's what's happening. So dramatic results for that their sexual appetite and ability increased because of the healthier diet on both sides, but on the vegan diet, like an extra 50 to 100% more.
What?
So
Hold on. The
yeah.
vegan diet?
The
Wow.
vegan diet was kicking, all I'm saying. In an 8-week short run example, I'm not saying like long term you're not going to turn into a noodle, but whatever.
A noodle?
I mean, I was at Erewhon recently.
Oh, that is a hippie market. Go on.
And for those of you who don't know, it is I don't want to say a high end, but it's a high end leaning toward organic, primarily grocery store.
Did you not like hippie market? I mean, hippie market I thought was a great...
Hippie is such a connotation. No, I mean,
No, hippie
you
is
need
a little bit
money.
too, yeah.
You need money, honey, to shop at Erewhon. I mean, I got 2 smoothies for a business meeting, and I was like, I'm sorry, $30. I got the Hailey Bieber like strawberry smoothie, and the first 2 sips were like, this is legit like a strawberry milkshake. And then I don't know if my palate just got destroyed or whatever. Then it just tastes like all the supplements, like the 25 supplements are in it. I was like, oh my God. But, it was so hot and busy in there. We saw Elizabeth Olsen, right, John?
Correct. You
Yeah.
almost ran into her.
Yeah. I was, we
Careful,
had one.
she's a witch.
Yeah,
I
watch
did.
out.
The Scarlet Witch. She was trying to figure out how to get in line with her bread, probably spelt loaf or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, so we had a nice exchange. And, but, it's expensive to eat organic and healthy food, and it takes more time.
Oh, yeah.
But I will say a lot of fast food today is becoming more expensive, and it's so detrimental to your health. The alternatives
Yeah.
are worth investigating. But I've watched a couple of these shows too, and the takeaway is like, good God, like what can I eat that is not somewhat of a risk? Potentially it's chemicals. It's almost, because almond milk is a good example that became a rage, like starting about 10 years ago in building.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they did the research of what it means to extract the basically, juice, the pulp out of the nut, it ends up being practically like a carcinogenic you're drinking.
I mean, it was a great idea when they started because it's check that. I don't think it was a great idea because there is an actual answer to this. The ugly fruits or the ugly food subscription that you can get, stuff that's not fit for the supermarket, the weird shaped tomatoes and potatoes and whatever. That's what it started as. We don't know what to do with the discarded almonds that are too small or too weird or cracked or broken or can't be sold. We can ground them and turn them into this other protein thing. But we're going to have to do a whole... that didn't end up working out because then they just switched to that as the farming mode, and it's not like they're picking the bad ones to make milk out of. No, that's a whole other product line. So it could have been good. It could have been like the ugly food subscription thing. And I need to subscribe to that.
And
I know. I as you were saying it, I was like, ooh, check that box.
All right, listen,
I need to.
we're all going to subscribe, and we want a little kickback.
No.
Just kidding.
sponsor us.
Just an extra
free
tomato
potato.
a week. Yeah.
Well, I will say, living here in California, you could say we are blessed or we are lucky because we almost have seasonal year-round produce.
Right.
Like we should not be having strawberries in December. Almost the only thing I still see as a true seasonal are what's called like the rock fruits. So whether
peaches and
nectarines and plums, like those will
Like they
come.
could probably make them grow, and they just wouldn't be that good. So then they don't sell.
Well, they figured out ways for berries, and tomatoes used to be like horrible for everything but spring to summer. And now they're growing hothouses. Like we have great tomatoes as well. So
Well, and isn't the other thing that's going on is there's a lot of globalization of food, like moving it from one hemisphere to another. So you're like, that's not good.
They'll say that's not good because, the beef in the United States of America, a lot of it is sourced from outside the country. And,
It's fascinating.
I've not watched the one you're talking about, Ed, but I've watched multiple others. Just so
I still want to watch it.
We could talk about this for an hour.
I want to feel bad.
Seriously.
You will.
I did just see one clip that I didn't realize was associated with this series until I watched it. I'm like, oh, that's where that clip came from. And it was, I'm not saying heartbreakingly local, but it was in Los Angeles County. That there are entire cities within the LA County that are food deserts, like fresh fruit deserts. A buddy of mine who lives near the airport, just to get to the nearest grocery store, 5 miles of any direction. Yes, there's an ocean 3 miles that way, but still, like in a 5-mile radius, there's a bunch of ocean and one supermarket that's not even convenient, just it's available. So that part of the documentary was like, food is a business. Health is a business.
I know.
Thanks, Netflix. Great. I liked it.
Yeah.
Now let me take a gummy to relax and go to sleep.
Oh, geez.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
And so those are the two things that I brought. One, time travel, we should be able to go back and fix all these problems. One, currently we're fucking things up real bad.
So the big takeaway is we need you, Scott Bakula.
Oh, awesome, Ed. Yes. It sounds like I might be sad, but I definitely still want to watch it.
It's good information.
Yeah. All right, you know what? I'll go next because actually it's sort of a parallel to your Quantum Leap and Scott Bakula. I watched Past Lives.
Past
exactly
Lives.
the same.
I want to watch Past Lives.
So it is nominated, I think, for Best Picture this year. I watched it at home on Hulu. So it's streaming on that platform. It did have a limited release, or it was in movie theaters, and I think it did the festival round as well. So it's really the story of two children that met in Korea, South Korea, and it seemed like about junior high, a boy and a girl, and the girl's family decides to emigrate to the United States.
Sorry, I just have to interrupt really quick. You are intentionally watching things with teenagers of them now? What is wrong with you?
I did not know. I was like, oh no, when it started. I'm like,
well, because I think from the promotion, the primary story, they're in their 30s, right?
And there's a lot of, they speak Korean, so there's a lot of, subtitles you're going to have to read.
Well, as long as it's on a platform like Hulu where I can pause it, or I can have John come over and just read it to me the whole time.
Okay.
As long as it's not a dub.
Yeah. John
I don't know if dub was an offer.
Just as a dyslexic person or a person with dyslexia, it is a factor whether or not there's a lot of subtitle requirement to watch something.
I don't know if a dub was even offered, and I didn't take it.
I kind of don't think so. A lot of times when it's a blend of English and another language, they don't typically do a dub. It's only if it's,
It might be like intentional, like where they're trying to clue you in. These people are being cut out of the conversation because they don't speak the language.
It's a purposeful thing. So where if you dub something, you're going to replace all of it with English, so that really wouldn't work.
Right.
Like, that's part of the story, that there's multiple languages going on.
Yes, because you're also seeing, so like I said, childhood, they're not really sweethearts because they're young. So it's not as if there had even been, I even think, like a kiss. I mean, it was very...
just childhood friends, really.
Yeah, a deep connection as children. And her family goes for what was considered like the better opportunities in America. And they assimilate. I mean, she changes her Korean name to Nora, ends up being a playwright in New York, and is living very much like sort of a young woman in New York making her way. And thanks to social media, Facebook at the time, she is able to see that he left a message on her father's post, because her father is a filmmaker. And
when is this set?
It felt contemporary, but it felt like early 2000s.
It's sort of a, two time periods, or at least there's a skip. 2012, they're like middle adults, and then they skip again 12 more years later.
Because, it goes from their childhood to 2012 to when she finds him on Facebook, and they basically what we consider now like FaceTime each other.
Oh, sort of reconnect.
Yeah. This is an intimate, very quiet paced film. And the filmmaker, Celine Song, who wrote and directed it, had to be purposeful. It's very, it's really the story of these two people. And, how when you are in those fundamental years, meet somebody, does it ever go away? And do you always have that connection? And what does that mean? Because he stays in Korea and is on his way to become an engineer. And they get very involved over that first reconnect period online. But it becomes apparent they're both so into their worlds, like unless one is willing to travel to the other, where is this going to go?
Yeah.
So
There's too much physical distance.
So she's the one that sort of puts I need to take a little bit of a break, because, they were really building up a dependency on each other. The way that she filmed, very quick cuts of them constantly checking in with each other throughout the day, the week, the month. And you could tell time had passed. So Nora's character in New York is so focused sort of on her career, goes, I'm just going to take a little break. So Nora decides that she's going to go to a basically writer's workshop in upstate New York. And like I said, the pace of it, the intimacy of it, it's very profound in the sense of like the acting is just a character study of these people, like how she enters a room, how she looks at something, no dialogue. So she arrives at this writer's retreat and you just can tell this is going to be a life-changing event. And so she meets another writer on the retreat, and that's what sort of takes her life in another direction for quite a few years. And that's where that other leap, and in that time period, she gets married to this other novelist. They move in together in New York, and they're having this artist lifestyle. And then she finds out her childhood friend is going to come to visit in New York, played by Korean actor Teo Yoo. And even though like he's an engineer now, he has this group of friends, seemed like he had a girlfriend but broke up. It's like this is an unfinished chapter. And really the only way you're going to be able to move on in your life, especially him, is to see each other. And so he comes to New York, and it's just... Also, the cinematographer did a really excellent job of showing both cultures, Korea versus New York. It was very kind of fascinating, the difference. And when they see each other, once again, you better be wide awake, because you can't kind of tune out. You got to be reading the subtitles, because she speaks mostly Korean to him. So really...
When they're together,
it's like, it's primarily subtitles. And the husband, he feels like, well, I'm not going to not let you see him, but are you like in love with him? Do you want to go with him? And so these are the fundamental questions of like, can you revisit your youth? And I married my childhood sweetheart, so I'm a weird, rare exception. But, it shows, so easily could you have gone through this door? It's a sliding door.
Oh, sure.
Theory. You go through this door and your life would have gone in a totally different direction. So, it just ends up like what choices were made, who we are, even though we have this fundamental sort of like deep connection to each other, does that necessarily mean we meant to be together? So a very, very, like I said, quiet, intimate film, character study on two people's place in life of like that core of who you are as a child, and especially someplace like Korea, and now we come to the United States. So for the character of Nora, that's her sort of touchstone, that's her memory, and how that affects her as an adult. So, I recommend it. It has no special effects. I don't think there's any green screening.
There's no time travel.
Nope. They, do go back in time a few times, just a reflection. But really, it's about these two adults making a decision of like what this relationship will look like now.
Well, it was already on my radar. You said it's on Hulu, but
Yes.
it must also be on Showtime, because I think I recorded it. And it's on my
Showtime first.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's on my DVR. I know that Showtime and Hulu have sort of a relationship, so sometimes that's there's a crossover of you see it on, because I of course just have regular cable, so I'll flip through and be like, oh, it's on Showtime, but sometimes it's also available on Hulu.
It was distributed by A24, which really does excellent art house, whether it be horror or something along this line. They back these type of films. So
Yeah,
we should be
they
very
do the
grateful.
smaller movie.
Yeah, I should be very grateful to A24, and they obviously put marketing behind it, because I will say this is not one of those films that should have popped off and been an Oscar nominee. Like, I don't know how it got the momentum behind it. The acting is superb, but that doesn't matter in today's marketplace. It's like it has to be seen. It has to be
people
known.
need to know about it.
Yeah. So
Interestingly, I feel like the market that you're referencing is saturated with anything but that. So it almost stands out.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So past lives.
Yeah, past lives. So it's on my DVR, and as John has joked, it's taunting me because it's been on there for a while.
I did not say that. I said it's taunting us.
Oh.
Because I have not seen it and I want to see it.
Okay. You can read it to me then.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, that sounds great. I do want to talk about the cast before you move on, because I know that the main character is played by Greta Lee. She is amazing. I
Yes.
love her.
She has got a momentum behind her, quite the push right now. I think there's been a lot of award nominations. I saw an interview with her where she was so insecure about having to speak Korean because, it's almost her own story. I mean, she became an actor, an American, and so therefore to have to speak Korean most of the film was challenging to her. But I think there are so many just reflective moments. They had moments where they would just really look at each other and stare into each other's eyes. To be able to pull that off and to hold an audience's attention by doing something like that, and sometimes on a screen, tells you, I don't know how much pre-work they did as the actors to create that sort of connection, and I've used it multiple times, the intimacy, but she was excellent at it. And so much it reminded me of practically actors workshop character study, where it's okay, you're going to do a scene in your apartment, what's your busy work, da-da-da-da. Because so much of it was that, but it was so natural, and you believed her in her space, you believed what she was doing. So yeah, she, the accolades that she's getting, the opportunities I hope that come from it are well deserved.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's been bubbling around and
It's
doing
a small
stuff.
hall cast, small
Yeah.
cast.
Yeah.
So you couldn't hide anywhere. No one was going to come in and pull focus. You had to be able to pull it off.
No, I mean, and what you're describing really leans on her capacity to be real and be grounded and have a great performance.
There's no bells and whistles. So you have to be able to just really be genuine in the moment.
Wow. Well, I'm reinvigorated to watch it.
There you go.
There you go. John, we have a plan.
Very different. Okay, what, John? Are you ready to read it all to her?
It's not that I'm doubting that we have a plan, but I mean, before the plan happens, we have the idea to plan. That's what we have.
Well, yes.
And then
It's
are you
the
going to
timing,
stick to the plan?
It's finding time to do the plan.
Okay, another one I'm going to talk about real quickly is The Color Purple.
Oh.
The 2023 movie based off the Broadway show.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Originally the book, Alice Walker, very well received, and Steven Spielberg took it and did a movie. Oprah Winfrey, Whoopi Goldberg, Danny Glover, very, very well received. Highly recommended if you haven't seen the original. And then from that, it was turned into a musical, which I never saw, but ran on Broadway. I mean, still might be on Broadway, very, very successful. And then once again, Amblin and Oprah Winfrey, and Quincy Jones, because Quincy Jones, I think, the original soundtrack for the movie Steven Spielberg, came in to produce this. It's one of those things that's a bummer. It's things go so quickly out of the theater, you're wait. So I come to my kitchen and I hear, I'm like, what are you watching? To my husband. I'm like, is this the new Color Purple? That's already on a streaming platform? And he goes, yeah, because I never saw the original. I'm like, he goes, was there singing and dancing in the original? I'm like, not like this.
Yeah.
I go, whoa. Where are you in it? Only 10 minutes. And I go, okay, stop.
Hold on. Yeah.
I actually am intrigued to watch this. So let's restart it in the big room. Because he's watching on the little screen in the kitchen.
Yeah. This is the classic. You can't merge in the middle. You got to restart from the beginning.
Luckily, I stopped him early.
What, John?
Wait, that's not something that you like, Katherine?
Well, I do
Merge
that.
watching?
Yeah. The whoops, I started in the middle and then I decided I better actually stop and watch it from the beginning.
Yeah. Well, I loved it.
Oh, wow.
So the lead, Celie, played by Fantasia, who you might know from American Idol.
Right. Fantasia Barrino.
Fantastic. That was the Whoopi Goldberg character.
Oh, okay.
They do it just like the movie, where it first starts off as two young girls. And
Are they sisters or
they're
friends?
sisters. Okay. And there's a harrowing element to it where their household just feels unsafe. And there's something that happens to her character, Celie's, that, for a young girl is awful. Pregnancy, and you're like, who got her pregnant? Oh, God. And
Now,
all that.
So timeline-wise, this happens after the Civil War. So we're talking about they're recently freed from slavery, but it's still very terrible and not good.
It just, as a black woman, I mean, I don't know if you have any rights.
Yeah.
And then, there's just elements of it that just still feel very much Jim Crow, or it's going to feel Jim Crow, is going to feel like suppression of rights as a black citizen of the United States of America. I mean, that is throughout. So, but Celie's character is really the most oppressed because she has babies taken away from her, and she's twins basically, and separated from her sister, basically the star of the movie. So she has no one. And she's really put into a position that she's basically a slave. And she thinks the man that she sold to, she doesn't even know his name. She just calls him Mr.
Oh, jeez.
And her heartbreak, and Fantasia does such a good job, is so palpable of just the longing and the missing of what her sister and her babies, and she doesn't know where her babies were. She thought they were dead. So Fantasia, who I think actually was in the Broadway production, does such a good job. I mean, you feel it. And then dance numbers and singing will come in. And you're like, what? But they did an excellent job. So the cast is amazing. Taraji Henson, Daniela Brooks, you may know from Orange is the New Black.
Right.
And then, he's having a moment, Coleman Domingo.
Oh, yeah.
But
Coleman Domingo is having a big moment. Between this and Rustin.
He plays Mr.
Oh, uh-oh.
And I said, damn, because really, you hate him. And he does such a good job in it. So it's a story, like I said, Celie as the main character of like how she's going to overcome.
Well, you said she was basically a slave. How is that?
Because
I don't know the story very well, so sorry if I am
She gets
sidetracking
basically sold by her father. I don't want to put quotes around that, but her father to Mr. to be a wife. So she has no say in it. So one day she's at the family store sweeping the porch, and the next day she is gone from her sister, ripped from her home, and it's like basically you're going to clean, cook, take care of my children. You're going to, we'll be intimate. You'll have no say in it, and it's just awful. And it's only because of Taraji's character that comes in,
Which, by the way, you have to say Taraji P. Henson. You gotta have that P in there.
Okay, so Taraji P. Henson, her character Shug Avery, who is a singer-performer, comes back to town, and that kind of upends everything. Because you see a woman who does have power, who does have her sort of own essence to her and control. And
I've seen from the trailer she's like doing a big show. Like
there's sort of a speakeasy.
Okay.
There's a speakeasy that she performs at, and like I said, the singing and the dancing rarely feels forced or out of place, which it can be very hard to take a Broadway constructed set environment and put it in a real context.
Yeah,
they did an excellent job. The cast really carries it. Danielle Brooks, who is nominated for Academy Award because she plays the Oprah Winfrey character. She plays Sophia. She is Mr.'s son's daughter-in-law, but it goes...
Mr.'s son's daughter-in-law. Okay.
So it goes real left, real quick. Like, because she is so strong, she's not going to let a man put her hands on her. There's a great song called Hell No.
Ooh.
That she kills it. And she's just a very strong character. Now, there is a arc there of where her spirit is broken, and how it comes back is just, you're like, yes.
So good for her.
I really recommend it because it's just, and like I said, I read the book in high school, saw the movie, never saw the Broadway play, but then this version. It's so interesting, the long sort of life it's had. And Fantasia was just heartbreaking and fabulous in it. And Danielle Brooks was great. And the characters were great. The set was great. A lot of the songs you really do love. You're like, oh, that's beautiful. Or, oh my goodness, it'll give you chills.
Or a big anthem, yeah. Well, because Danielle Brooks, I think from Orange is the New Black, she is amazing. So between the two of them.
Hoppa. I mean, she just, also there are lines that remind you back of the original movie. You're like, oh my gosh. And I think the famous line is like, God gets pissed if you walk by the color purple and don't notice it. So that's really the ode. That's said by Shug, and that's said to Celie because they form a true friendship that saves her in the end.
Oh, wow.
So there is redemption, there is hope, but it starts out very bleak, even as a musical. So, but it is fabulous. And I know there's a little drama after the fact because, I mean, talk about irony. Taraji P. Henson came out and talked about sort of the struggle for equal pay, even in a movie like this, and being treated a particular way. And then that always speaks to like, well, okay, who are your producers? But then it's a bigger problem. It's like, well, what did your agent fight for or not fight for? It's just, she kind of brought an awareness to the fact that like women of diversity and women, and then a broader women in the industry still have such a hard time being treated with equality.
Yeah.
Because Taraji P. Henson
she's a force.
She is an A-lister.
Wasn't she nominated for Benjamin Button?
I think she's been nominated multiple times.
And Hidden Figures?
Oh, yeah.
Multiple
Amazing
projects.
movie.
Empire, like that kind of put that programming on the map, and even that, I think,
She was amazing in that. Cookie.
Yeah. So for her to speak out and say, if I'm not willing to fight for this equality, what's going to happen to the women coming up behind me?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So, but that kind of, when you're doing a press tour, it's supposed to be all like, everything was great.
Oh, yeah. You got to do it, though. If you don't take those opportunities, good for her.
No, and she was fantastic as Suge in it, sings and dances, and, I mean, and I was sitting with my husband, and he, loved it. He did not fall asleep.
Oh.
Which is practically the bar now. But he actually thought it was really fantastic. So you can watch it on Amazon.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll get on it.
Yes.
Okay. So who's left? John, what do you
Yes.
got?
Okay, so I went to the theater and saw Bob Marley, One Love.
Oh, I'm dying to see it.
Great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, obviously, we all love his music. Unfortunately, tragically died very young.
Really
Yeah.
young.
So, yes, it's an interesting version of the biopic because it focuses 76 to 78 in some ways.
So
which
kind of a
are
narrow,
two-piece concerts, but then has a much wider focus on top of that. You get, going back to him being a teenager, less than a teenager, then, you do kind of tail out the imply some things because he only dies in 81, 3 years later. It's crazy.
Wow, 81. Okay.
Yeah, but between himself and his wife, Kingsley Benadir, I mean, is amazing. And then Lashana Lynch, his wife, is similarly amazing. To see kind of that music, and they do one or two times of really one especially of creating a song is pretty amazing because, the music is so good. To see it come to life in a slightly less than real way is fantastic. Then having the music throughout the entire thing, and Ziggy, they filmed as they often do in the theaters. Now you get a little intro sometimes, and it was from Ziggy Marley, his son, because he was a producer and totally involved and, really making sure that it was authentic. And you're like, wow, so this is the real deal. This is what happened, pretty much.
That's cool. Yeah, I had seen that Ziggy Marley was one of the producers, and I think Brad Pitt, too.
Yeah, his company with Dee Dee Gardner, Plan B, they did produce it, yes.
Wow, cool.
I mean, if you did not have the album Legends in college by Bob Marley, which is actually a compilation of his greatest hits, who were you?
Who are you?
I mean, and I sang backup in a band called Three Little Birds in Santa Barbara. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it was an all-white band too. I can't remember, but it was it was Santa Barbara. I had a tambourine.
Oh, geez.
And so we were like the Wailers in the background.
Sure. And look, directed by Ronaldo Marcus Green, who did King Richard. Ooh. So it's really fantastic. Get to it when you can, for sure.
What's funny is you went with our sister Ginny.
Correct.
And she called on the way there. It was like a weeknight at, 5 or 6. And she's like, I don't know what you're doing, but if you can, John and I are going to go see Bob Marley, One Love. And I was like, I am still working, so I can't go.
Yeah.
But very cute, sort of in the moment, just can you join us? But ironically, I would say our other sibling, Rosemary, is even the bigger fan, and she couldn't go.
Yes, she had declined to go with us, to go with her husband, so we had to go without her.
So
I wonder if she's seen it yet. Okay, all right.
She has not.
It's on my list for sure. Brother Bob.
Okay.
Because I love him.
So currently just still in theaters.
Correct.
Correct.
Great. Okay.
Okay. Well, I do want to mention that Kingsley Benadir, he was recently in Barbie. He played one of the Barbies. So
Basketball Ken.
Was it Basketball Ken? Oh my God, how funny. He's great. I do love him. So, and I had seen both the promo for it and then some other clips and stuff. He really is just absolutely so Bob Marley.
It's pretty amazing. It's almost weird because at the end they do show some clips of real Bob and some of the concerts and all kinds of different little pieces and things that iconic moments that you remember, him playing soccer and all these things, because then they had reenacted so many of these moments, and it's almost strange to see it as a different, you're like, oh, okay, right, that wasn't him. He does look slightly different. But yes, but inhabiting him and so incredibly similar. He did such a fantastic job. Apparently did tons of research and really paid off. It was great.
Okay, cool. So, John, what else you got? You got a throwback or a rewatch?
If you must, yes, I can do this. So this is a new rewatch. This was technically only the second time I've ever seen it. Seen it in the theater in 2018 and was ready to finally watch it at home for the second time. Second act
Second act.
Jennifer Lopez.
Oh,
What?
Yes. What's your problem? Why haven't you seen it more than
I think
me?
I have. Well, listen, this is her moment between her visual album,
right,
Correct.
right.
her new album coming out, and then there's a behind the scenes of making of the
yeah,
visual
she made a
album.
documentary too.
And she was just on SNL as the music guest like 2 weeks
my
ago or
gosh.
something.
And a Super Bowl ad with Ben.
And I've already discussed on this podcast some time ago, perhaps one of my modern favorite of her, Marry Me, but we've already talked about it. So now we got to talk about a different one, which
Okay.
is Second Act. So look, it's just real. Jenny is from the block in Queens,
Yeah.
and she's working at a supermarket and is unappreciated for her
Yeah.
genius.
Yep.
Now, however, there is a whole other direction that it goes in, which, suspend disbelief. Treat Williams and Vanessa Hudgens. Oh, are they related? You'll have to find out.
Okay.
It's all very fun. She's developing a beauty product. What could be better? And look, it's funny. I looked up, I didn't know this, but the director, Peter Siegel, did 50 First Dates.
Oh,
So come on. Everybody should give it a chance and a second chance.
and a second chance. Well, I have seen it, and I do love it. Where did you rewatch this?
I don't know.
It
okay.
says it's available on Hulu.
Oh, okay. So maybe there.
That is correct on Hulu.
Okay.
Okay, there you
And
go.
I love her best friend, who's actually her very good friend in real life.
Leah Remini is so funny in this.
Yeah. I feel like that might be their relationship. She's not treating her like J-Lo. She's just kind of
She's just,
knocking
yeah.
her down, cut the shit out.
well,
Like,
she's just a manager at a grocery store.
And
so,
yeah,
you know.
right. It's a Treat Williams. Oh, it's so bummed.
Oh,
He's
I
gone.
forgot about that.
Yeah, he's very fun in this. And I mean, yeah, he gets a couple good fun scenes in it. Leah as her friend, yes, you are totally correct. I mean, I don't know how they are in real life. But in this, very real in some ways. Just like, wow, okay, so this is maybe how a person might do this in real life. All right, great. I love it.
Wasn't there some kind of running joke where she doesn't swear, if I'm remembering correctly?
No, you're not remembering correctly, because at first she swears a lot. And her, early elementary school child is copying her and gets in trouble, and then she decides to
Oh.
stop and does
Okay.
very strange versions of
Well,
it.
that's what I am recalling.
And J-Lo is like, just swear, and she won't anymore. So she's good for her, okay?
Okay. I'm trying to remember who is it that works at the company, because there's a couple of funny characters who work at the company.
It's full of funny characters. There's Charlene Yee. There's
Love her.
Dave Foley. You also have Annalee Ashford. The second person, because it's not that it's confusing, because obviously we all work in product development and know exactly how this works. But Vanessa Hudgens' person who is somehow I can't even remember exactly. He's very funny. I think his name is Alan Eisenberg. He's very good as kind of a swab. He's not a nice guy.
It's almost like I thought you said swab. Like
I did.
Swab.
I probably did, but I meant suave.
Yeah. That's a good word for like a douchey, swabby guy. Swab. You're suave, okay?
And there's one of the assistant scientists who's, with cats, and he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and been told Dave Foley has, relegated him, and he's really has some challenges. He's quite funny as well.
I do remember it being very funny.
Actually, Alan Eisenberg is the funny scientist, but the not nice suave one was Freddie Stroma. And then J-Lo's partner, Elaine Goldsmith-Thomas, actually co-wrote this, so quite a fantastic job.
I like a rewatch. I might have to
Listen,
put
no one
that-
can
yeah.
doubt J-Lo's ability to nail a rom-com.
Oh, she has a stellar resume.
I mean, she literally got married again in the last one at like 50, and I still will say that Jennifer Coolidge playing her mother, when I think in real life they're like 10
I think that
years
was
apart.
his mother. Wasn't that his?
Whatever. It was like ridiculous.
Whatever, shotgun wedding. Yes, it was his mother. There's no problem with that.
Okay.
It's all perfect.
Okay.
It's all perfect.
Got it.
Can we do a wedding planner 2 already? I mean, I'm waiting. She's
Oh,
obviously been
that-
planning some weddings.
She's been planning weddings.
Yep.
She should do a wedding planner too. Okay, well, before we wrap up, I just want to mention that I also did watch a stand-up special. I watched Taylor Tomlinson's Have It All. It's on Netflix. She is fantastic. It's her third Netflix special. So
yeah.
first of all, good for her. She's killing it. part of what she talks about in this stand-up special is that she's really doing great and very happy with like her career is doing good and she's achieving what she set out to do and like really
She's got that new show Ed brought up,
Yes,
which is
that's what I was
After
gonna say.
Midnight on CBS, right?
After Midnight. I was going to say that's why she came up recently. And I watched it just, I was on the treadmill and I was like, I need something to just like keep me going and it was perfection.
Great.
She's really interesting too because she describes herself as an introvert, which I always find very surprising when a comedian is like, has a lot of things that they talk about that don't seem to correlate with doing a big performance. But she was talking about dating and she's currently single, and so she was talking about relationship stuff. She talks about she has a lot of anxiety issues, which she's incredibly funny about, which is not a funny topic typically. She had a running joke, I think she said it a couple times, where she's like, Taco Bell, perfect for any occasion. I don't know, she's just great. I just really loved her. And there was a part where she was doing crowd work where she's, talking to the crowd about, because she has sleep issues, and she does a very funny bit where she tries to get the crowd to like give her weird sleep advice. And that did feel very much like, yeah, of course she should be hosting a show. She's great with like off the cuff, with people. She was fantastic. So I just wanted to make sure I threw that in there because I want everybody to go and watch it.
I didn't even realize that I needed to bring this up, and this is the last little nugget of stuff that we're going to talk about. Because of Liz's so much talk about Oscar stuff, I'd almost forgotten I watched the absolutely bizarre marriage of like a Willy Wonka movie and a Wes Anderson style of Poor Things in the theater. A friend invited me to go see
let's
a
talk. I watched it too. Let's say that for the next episode because that's got Oscar nominations. So let's talk about it next week.
Okay.
I'll try and watch it too because I've been interested to watch it. So Poor
definitely
Things.
figure it out.
We'll put that on the agenda. Okay, so let's do a quick wrap up. I talked about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and that is available on Prime Video. And then also I talked about One Day, which is a limited series, and that is on Netflix. And then last I threw in that I also watched Taylor Tomlinson's Have It All, her third stand-up special on Netflix.
And I watched Quantum Leap on Peacock and You Are What You Eat, a twin experiment on Netflix.
Okay, and I watched Past Lives and The Color Purple, which you can watch both on Hulu.
I saw in the theater Bob Marley, One Love, and Second Act on Hulu.
Nice. Okay, so that's it for this episode. And please follow us on all of our social media at Podcast Watching, and that is Facebook, Instagram, X, and Twitter. Oh my God, I got the list right.
You did X and Twitter.
And
not
TikTok.
And TikTok.
So you kind of got the list.
I did not get the
all
list.
social platforms.
Also available on all social platforms. Perfection. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching and or listening, and we'll catch you next time on What We're Watching.